everyone. Let's take a look at some of my favorite Citizen watches that use one of my least favorite movements. I have these three watches here, plus this one that I'm wearing. And I really like these four watches, but man, the movement that they use is just a difficult one to use. And I actually have these watches despite the movement, not because of it. You can recognize the movement if it looks like what you see here, a chronograph with a subdial at 2, 6, and 10. Citizen does have another cheaper chronograph watch that has the same dial arrangement, but generally speaking, if it's a little more of an expensive watch, it's probably this series of movements. There's different movements in all these watches. It's in the E800 line. So I think that's the E820 and the E810. We'll see. As far as the watch models, these are all in the BL line of watches. I don't know if you know Citizen, but all their model numbers start with 2 digits, letters, and then a 4-digit number. The first 2 letters plus the first number, so in this case, BL5 or BL1, that's kind of a code word for what the movement is. All watches that have BL something are going to use this kind of subdial arrangement. On paper, these movements are kind of nice. They're eco drive, so they're solar powered. That's pretty cool. They have a second time zone, so they have a local and a home time. So they're sort of a GMT watch. They have an alarm. That's pretty cool. Some of them have chronographs. Also nice. They seem to be jam-packed. Most importantly, they have a perpetual calendar, which means you kind of tell it the date. You give it the month, you give it the day, and you tell it if it's a leap year or how long it's been since a leap year. And it will track. It'll always show the right date there. Most watches think it's every month has 31 days. But these watches know if it's 31, 30, 29, or 28. That's pretty cool. So why don't I just kind of zoom in on some of these and get a look for them, and then we'll kind of dive into the movement. This watch here, it's part of their Citizen Signature line of watches. A really cool line of watches, all sorts of different movements, some of them quartz, some of them mechanical. They came out around 2010, maybe a little later. I think this watch is called the Citizen Courageous, anything that has this style. It is a dive watch, so it has this bezel. And as is typical with Citizen, their premium watches, they just don't like sapphire crystals for whatever, ceramic bezels. So all of their more premium watches have some interesting kind of bezel, but I made a video showing the only watches they ever made that use ceramic bezel inserts. But this is a diver, chrono diver in the Citizen Signature Collection. Yeah, you see it right there on the back. The Signature Collection, and on the bottom says Courageous. Awesome watch, nice two-tone. I think the clasp feels really good, although it does not have micro adjust. Sapphire crystal. I think it's a very comfortable watch. It has a really beautiful dial, and it has all those check boxes from this movement. But as I'll get into, it's a pain to use. Maybe if we were to go, this is a random order. This watch here, also in the BL line, I'm pretty sure this is somewhere in the late aughts, somewhere between 05 and 10. I think this is really special because you don't find many solar watches that have a full lume dial. Normally the full lume is a paint, so it's going to block the photoreceptors behind it, but you will see it if it's a chronograph. So the solar panels on this are through those dials. It'll try to like glint the light. You can kind of tell those are photovoltaics. Also a diver, really nice bezel action, integrated bracelet. I think this is pretty comfortable as well. I like this watch. Same line of movement. There's some small variations, but cool. A diver, full lume, perpetual calendar, alarm, chronograph. What's not to like? We can just zoom out so we see the collection. I'm just going in random order, so that I think is among the oldest with this one. This one came out in the early 10s. This is probably the newest. it's not part of the signature collection. I feel like it might go under the name Bryson. Citizen's really weird with their names. They'll make 50 watches that share a name, and the same watch will have different names in different regions. But if we look here on this watch, yeah, see EH20 right here, the first half of that number, that's the movement. This is a cool watch. It's titanium bracelet. I don't know why it's just a pressed clasp, but other than that, it has this premium movement, all these features. I think it has this really cool dial. Sometimes it looks blue, sometimes it looks a little blue-green. I'll try to get some of that light. When you're out in actual natural sunlight, it looks a little more blue-green. I like the IP-coated bezel. If I were to have any gripes other than the pressed clasp, the bezel does not turn, which is fine, but it has these minute markers on them, and I think that's probably unnecessary because they're also on the inside here. You see them there. And you see the tachometer as well. That's cool. I could have done without these numbers on the bezel. But otherwise, super lightweight, fully functional, perpetual calendar. I'll dive into that. I just want you to get a look at what these watches are. And then this guy, this one took me a long time to find. Normally, it comes on this leather strap. There's different variations of all of these watches, by the way, different colorways and such. There's a version of this that comes on a bracelet, but I actually first saw this watch on the company that makes this strap, which is the Watch Steward. In their demo pictures, where they demo their straps, they're not even selling the watch, they don't care. They had one of these watches, and I said, I love it. They don't say what watch it is. I did like an image search, and I found this Citizen, and I not only bought a strap from them, but I was able to find the watch that they used in their kind of press shots. I think it's really awesome. That inner track here, that thin, the red accents, it kind of matches the version I got, but the thin red line. Really, really cool. Okay, so we're 7 minutes in. We've seen a nice overview of 4 watches that I think are spectacular. I think they're attractive looking watches. Maybe my favorite being the one I just showed you. I love the Citizen signatures. I love Lume dials. I love titanium. It's hard to pick. Which one am I going to use as an example? I think the real thing is using this. Man, it is a pain. The main thing is you see 3 subdials on most chronographs. One of them is a running seconds, and one of them is like minutes, and one is hours. On this, the whole subdial at the bottom is kind of used up by a mode dial. And this one looks like it has 8 modes. You say Eltum, Chur, to me, Alm. Well, that's local time, chronometer, time, and alarm. But it is doubled up. You see it's pointing to that chronometer, Chur, and there's a Chur here. They're the same. So my first gripe, maybe minor, it's a little weird. You have a subdial that has 8 options, but it really only has 4. And it uses up this whole subdial that could be used for so many other things, which we'll kind of get to. The crown in normal time mode. Okay, we're in chronograph mode now, so I'll just show you that in use. It does a 1 spin around and it ends up at 1 second. It's kind of fancy. It beeps when you start it. Normal. We can stop it. We can restart it. But this pusher here does nothing. So I was hoping it had a lap mode or something extra. It does not. This pusher, in fact, does very little. We can stop it, and this is not a reset button, but rather, look what happens to the subdial at 2. It just kind of peaks at a number, which is the tenths and 20ths of a second. So the thing that we just timed was 19.15 seconds. I think I'm reading that right. 19.11 seconds, something like that, where pretty cool. You get some precision there, but you have to press and hold this button just to show you a little bit of extra precision on the last thing that you got. And I press and hold this pusher here to reset the chronograph. And that's that. But unlike most watches, where if it's a chronograph, you can just read the time and you're also in chronograph mode, in this watch, in chronograph mode, I have the minutes hand telling me what I want. I have the hour hand, but there is no running seconds hand. I don't see running seconds right now. That second hand is dedicated for the chronograph. I don't know time-wise. A cheap chronograph, for the past 50 years has given you both. The subdial up here is just the 24-hour time. That's it. So that's not too helpful. So we have kind of a wasted subdial down here, and I would argue sort of a wasted subdial up here. That's kind of useful to get a little extra precision. I can go back, I can pull this crown out just once. It points down to say it's in mode setting mode, where I can rotate this and you see the subdial at the bottom. I can go to time, push that in. And now I'm in timekeeping mode, and the second hand is the running seconds. But in this mode, you have no chronograph, which is weird to me that you need to pick and choose. It's also weird to me you have to pull the crown out to position 1 to turn it to switch between those modes. Because if you accidentally pull the crown out 2 positions, you go into the time setting mode. And when you're in that mode, you lose your time. I can do it right here. I could pull it out twice, and now it's in a time. Oh, it just spun around. So, yeah, I had to press this button to initiate. So it wiggled that to say that anything I do here will change the time. Anyways, I'm going to go out of this mode. Maybe when I'm demonstrating here, it's confusing. It's not intuitive. You could be in time mode where you're going to be setting the time. It's easy, I think, to get into time setting mode. And you have to go into chronograph mode where you don't have the running seconds, right? Whatever. There's this other LTIM, which is local time mode. We'll switch into that, which is pretty cool. If you know watches, you can have a local time, which is wherever you are, and your home time, which is wherever you're based out of. And this has both, so it's kind of like a GMT watch, but it also, the way it handles it, I don't think is very useful at all. Basically, this watch can store 2 different hours. You can have one time in this mode, which could be one time zone of your choosing, and in time mode, you could have another time zone, whatever time zone of your choosing. But you have to pull the crown out, one position, turn it, and go into it to go back and forth. And you saw the hands, they moved, which is cool. No doubt, that's really interesting, the way it's fully independently motorized. But my hope was that this subdial would always show the other time, and it doesn't. So if I'm in local time, my hour hand and minute hand, plus the 24-hour time, are local. If I switch it into normal time, which is home time, all 3 of those hands are going to adjust. I really think if this, in a chronograph mode, that could have been an hours accumulator and a minutes, it is a 24-hour clock of whatever time you're in. And I think that's a lost opportunity. They could have so easily made this so that you could see 2 time zones at the same time, but you don't. You see I'm going back into the time zone, you see that hand there moving. It also has an alarm mode, and it works as you'd expect. You have to pull it out one position, go into alarm, and to set the alarm, I don't know. I think I have to pull the crown out to second position, which is the setting mode, and then I can set that and I can turn it on and off. It's not designed to wake you up. It's kind of a reminder thing. That works, and you can be in any mode and the alarm will work, so that's done right. But if I were designing this watch, they really don't need to have modes. You could have had just one mode, and these pushers would have controlled the chronograph. And the time would have told you the time. And a subdial could have showed you an alternate time zone. And maybe there's a way to switch it and to flip those 2 time zones around, turn on and off the alarm. They could have done this better and made better use of these. Because as it is, this whole subdial is all to control 4 different modes, which shouldn't even really exist. Now that I've gone over some of the issues that I have with this movement, just as a recap, I do think these watches are pretty cool. There's a ton of watches in each of these model ranges, different colorways. On the whole, I think they're very attractive and very featureful, but you got to know what you're getting into. And so I kind of wanted to make a warning. That's kind of the point of the overview of the movement. if that little overview doesn't seem too complicated at all, then these watches might be for you. As I said, I have 4 of them. You know, that's more watches than most people have. So I do think they're quite beautiful. I do think they're quite featureful. Let's turn off the lights and see what the Lume looks like, especially the full Lume dial, and we'll end it off there. I can't get the room perfectly dark now, but you should be able to see. And that really glows. Really cool. And we have the Lume pip in the bezel. Awesome. The Courageous has very courageous Lume. You know, if I keep the light on, you can kind of see it. Really, really cool. I don't actually recall what this looks like with this Lume. I think it's just the hands. Oh no, those are fully lumed markers. It isn't a dive watch after all. I think that's why. Yeah, you can kind of see they're glowing. And this one, fully lumed numerals and indices. Yeah, not bad. Right, hopefully you like some of these, and in the description I'll get you the more accurate, correct model numbers for everything, and maybe some of the other colorways for these watches. I think that's it. Thank you very much.